Maitreya is not a name which most Christians would associate with Christ. What is his relationship to the Christ?
Maitreya and the Christ are one and the same individual, and he worked through Jesus by overshadowing Jesus 2,000 years ago in Palestine. His consciousness entered into that of Jesus at the baptism, and from the baptism to the crucifixion, Jesus was the Christ. This time, the Christ himself, the Lord Maitreya himself, has come into the world.
America looked for a man who is calling for justice in the world, for all the world, for freedom for all the world. When enough people are responding to what he has to say, Maitreya will be asked to speak to the whole world. And on that day, the day of declaration, as it will be known, an extraordinary thing will happen. Simultaneously, throughout the world, people will see Maitreya's face, by now familiar, on their television sets. Everyone, every adult in the world will hear his words, his thoughts, his ideas inwardly, silently, telepathically. While he is speaking, his energy, the energy of love, will flow out in tremendous potency through the hearts of all humanity. This will evoke an intuitive, heartfelt response to the message. And on the physical plane, there will be hundreds of thousands of spontaneous healings, cures throughout the world. Our response to this extraordinary day and this message will determine the whole future of our world. Maitreya has already said, "My heart tells me your answer, your choice, and is glad."
What are the primary reasons he has returned?
He has come to show humanity how to live together in peace as brothers and sisters of one humanity. He says this is easier than you imagine. It requires only the acceptance of the principle of sharing. He says we have a choice. We could go on in the ways in which we're going now, which are leading us to the edge of a precipice and destroy all life on this planet, or accept that we are brothers and sisters of one humanity under the one God, and therefore the food, the raw materials, the energy, the science, the educational facilities of the world belong to everybody and have to be shared more equitably around the world, so that you no longer have what he calls this blasphemy of millions of people literally right now starving to death in a world which is overflowing with food.
Why has the Christ stayed so behind the scenes when there are millions of people starving in the world? Why doesn't he come out and solve the problem?
By karmic law, he cannot simply create all the food and share it out and give it to all the starving millions, and we would say, oh, that's good, we don't need to do anything about this, you see? Clap our hands. This absolves us from our right to do it. It's our problem.
But this obviously means a great change in political systems.
Indeed, and of course we're witnessing that taking place right now.
Yes. Talk a little bit about that. What is his role, if any?
He has poured into the world a new energy, which he calls the energy of equilibrium. And this brings about harmony in the world. It acts through the law of action and reaction, which, as you know, are opposite and equal. And by its action, its harmonizing action in the world, we will create out of the present violence and tension and discord and unhappy conditions a period of peace, tranquility, mental and emotional poise, and in exact proportion to the existing disharmony, disequilibrium. Through this law of cause and effect, our negative, destructive thinking patterns, thought forms, create the extraordinary disturbance in the weather patterns all over the world. And as soon as we come into equilibrium, they too, nature itself, will come into equilibrium. So he's seeking to show the interconnectedness of everything. He said everything in creation is composed of atoms, and all of that atomic substance is interconnected. So when you, by your destructiveness, destroy the pattern, the existing cohesive pattern in one aspect of that creation, you set loose a chain of reaction which inevitably causes further destruction in other parts of that creation.
In thinking about the changes that are happening in the world, people can't help but notice the corruption that is being brought to the surface and certainly being given a lot of airplay by the news media, both in the United States and in Europe as well. Does this have anything to do with the stimulus of Maitreya?
This corruption is a purification process. As it rises to the surface, it can be resolved. We recognize it for what it is. And more, as people respond to the energies which he pours into the world, this takes place and people grow in awareness. They were aware of corruption before, but their awareness was of a different nature. They simply knew it happened. But now they are aware that it is wrong. And that is why they've turned on the leaders in East Germany, in Czechoslovakia, in Romania, in Russia, in Poland, and so on and so on. One can go on, in South Africa, and all over the world. This tendency is towards not only democracy and freedom, but to cleansing the body politic. And so bring in those who really care altruistically about the well-being of all people. So suddenly, in a place like Czechoslovakia, you don't get a politician at the head of affairs, you get a playwright. And this is foretold by Maitreya.
Let's get back to Maitreya himself. How does he appear?
The most common is to appear to people in their dreams. And this has happened to people by the thousand all over the world, in every country. That's the most common way. The second is to appear to people as a kind of apparition. You know, they have a vision of him. It's not a dream, they're awake, but it's not solid either. It's somewhere in between. That's also very common. And then he will appear just like you, as a solid physical man, suddenly appearing in a room or a street or whatever, people in a park bench sitting there, and he'll suddenly appear beside them, looking however he may wish. He can change his appearance at will. Some people see him as an old man, maybe dressed in rags. Other people see him as a young man. Nearly always he dresses in the community in London in white Pakistani clothes with a little skull cap, crocheted skull cap on his head. He's neither young nor old. And he has a bit of a beard, dark beard here, dark, lustrous eyes and very high cheekbones. He's very tall and slim. That's the normal way he's seen.
Is he acting alone in this coming out?
He will eventually be followed into the world by about 40 masters from all parts of the world. There's one in New York. There's one here in LA, in the mountains, just above LA. There is one in London. There's one in Geneva, one in Darjeeling, one in Tokyo, one in Moscow, one in Rome. The one in Rome is the well-known master known to all Christians as Jesus. The Master Jesus. Jesus, who was in Palestine, is a great master, works closely with Maitreya moment to moment, and has been living in Rome for over 3 years. The Vatican knows this story. They know that all I'm saying is true.
Why are they keeping a lid on it?
You have to ask them.
Well, I'm asking you. There must be some reason that you're at least partially privy to.
We all know that the Roman Catholic Church is probably the most conservative, the most cautious establishment on earth. So for the Pope to come out with this, in fact, for any representative of the Vatican to come out with this is as amazing as the coming down of the Berlin Wall.